Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn, and don't forget this is your place to get all the secrets behind how to uplevel your career without sacrificing your sanity or your work-life balance. And if you joined us last week, you know we covered everything you needed to know about the power of your voice and whether or not your voice was creating more confidence or undermining you. So this week we wanted to go even deeper and talk about the words you're actually choosing. So come back and join us for episode 79, where we'll talk about it all right here on the Career Woman's Secret Playbook podcast.
Are you a strong, independent woman who's passionate about her career? Then this podcast is perfect for you. Based on her book, The Career Woman's Secret Playbook, career coach Dr. Dawn Hamby shares the kind of insider secrets you can only know if you've hired, fired, and promoted employees over the past 30 years. Here's today's episode.
Welcome back, everybody. I am so glad you are here. This is a follow-up, as you know, to last week's episode, because I find it so fascinating that the voice and the words that we use are not always really considered. And so today we're going to be taking that deeper dive on the actual words that we're using and how sometimes we may be giving our power away in ways we never thought of before. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, you might notice my backdrop is a little different today. I actually have the chance to film out of my husband's office today. I just think it's so beautiful, and oftentimes it looks like a Zoom backdrop. It's so fancy smancy. So I think you're going to enjoy a little bit of a different location. He is not working today, so I get to hog his office. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this very fancy backdrop, which is not even a Zoom backdrop. I'm happy to say I helped decorate this. So if you like this kind of decor, you can thank your girl right here for this very fancy backdrop for today's episode. But in any case, you guys, let's talk a little bit about what we mean by the words that we say. What's happening here? What does the research say about this? I'm really excited to kind of take a deeper dive today. So again, I'm so glad you're here. Now, if you're new to our podcast, throughout the episode, if I can think of videos that I already have on YouTube or other podcast episodes that might give you even more information, I'll go ahead and share that with you all throughout the episode. Okay? All right, you guys, so let's first take a look at the research and what it says. I find it's really fascinating. Okay, you guys, so let's start with this. Did you know that women are significantly more likely than men to use self-deprecating language, especially in a professional setting? So, for example, they might start their comments by saying, well, I may be wrong about this. That kind of thing. And in fact, later in the episode, you guys, I'm going to give you a breakdown of what you may be saying, what that really implies, and then how we can correct it. So I'll give you some examples of how to correct that. But isn't that interesting that there are some actual gender differences between the way women are phrasing things? And then that's automatically going to take away from their authority or their expertise on that subject. And ladies, I definitely don't want you to do that. Even saying things like, well, I just think, just saying the word just, and I like the word just, I think it's good for emphasis, but in a professional setting, if I'm trying to make a point, if I use that word too much, and even use the word think too much in a different kind of way, again, that could be taking away from the power and clarity of what I'm trying to convey. There's other research that even suggests that women are 4 times as likely to use a style of language that again takes away their power. And we'll get into more specifics about that. Is literally called out of power language. And again, it contributes to this idea that you're, diluting your message before you even really have a chance for it to land. Now, here's another issue that happens a lot, especially with us ladies. We use a lot of qualifiers in our responses, both in email and when we're speaking. So let's talk about the qualifiers. Qualifiers would be things like, well, I mentioned one already, just, or saying the word sorry, perhaps either at the beginning or at the end of your sentences. using the word actually too much. And again, guys, I'm just as guilty of these things. So once you're aware of the words, just start kind of watching your style and listening for these. They can make a real difference. And it's not a bad thing to use these words for certain situations in a professional setting. So, for example, as a boss, if I see there's some friction in my department, especially between some of my employees, some of those words can actually help reduce and ease that friction, kind of smooth those feathers, so to speak. So, again, it's okay to use these words. Just be careful on when you're using them, because if you're trying to use it in a professional setting to make a point, and to show your expertise in a particular area or to make a strong recommendation, these words, again, ladies, could be taking your power away. Okay, so here's my favorite part of today's episode. I'm going to give you some more examples of ineffective ways to say things. Then we'll talk about why it's actually undermining you. And then, as you know, I love discussing an issue, but I'm never going to let you walk away from any of our episodes without giving you some solutions. Okay. I'm not going to leave you like that, ladies. We're not going to just talk it to death. Yes, my company's name is Shop Talk. I do love to talk shop, but I want you to always walk away with some action steps and some things you can do right away to help solve the problem. All right, so let's get into that next. Okay, so let's start with an ineffective phrase saying, I'm sorry, but. All right, ladies, I think you can already tell, why does this undermine us? Well, if you're starting with an apology when it's probably not even needed, then again, that's going to undermine what you're trying to say. So here's an empowering option. Let's go this direction instead. So instead of saying, I'm sorry, but replace it with dropping the apology altogether and just leading with your point. So, for example, instead of saying, I'm sorry, but the numbers I'm looking at don't support that, you can instead just lead with your point, again, dropping that apology, and instead say it like this. The numbers I'm looking at don't support that, but I have some ideas as to why. Okay, that's a short and sweet example of how you're leading with your point. And then on top of that, you're going to go ahead and explain why you think that's the case. You're not apologizing or even using the word actually. You're not saying, the numbers I'm looking at actually support this. See what I'm doing there? I'm using the word actually as a qualifier. And then I'm not taking my own advice from last week's episode in terms of the way my voice is projecting my confidence. Remember, when you go up in your intonation, when you go up in your inflection, again, it's sounding like you're asking a question instead of making that declarative statement. So then it sounds like you're asking for permission to make that point, or it sounds like you're just not very sure. Okay, here's another example. Saying the phrase just checking, whether again you're speaking it or maybe this is in an email or a text. What that does is it really minimizes your intent. That's the reason it undermines you. So here's what you can do instead. Just say, I'd like to follow up, dot, dot, dot. Okay, fill in the blank. If you're saying, I'd like to follow up instead of just saying, just checking, do you see the powerful difference there? It's subtle, but it does make a difference. Here's one of my favorites, the phrase, well, I may be wrong. You guys, it's very kind and it's okay to be wrong. There's nothing wrong with admitting that. We're talking about those situations in a professional setting where you're beginning the conversation, where you're trying to share your opinion. So we don't have to lead with those apologies. We can always get to that later if we, in fact, need to tweak things or, in fact, need to apologize. But most of the time, you don't need to apologize. You need to just share your thoughts. So again, by saying, I may be wrong, you're automatically signaling that uncertainty. And we don't want that right off the bat. So here's what you can do instead. Replace it by saying, here's what I'm thinking. Again, there's nothing wrong with that, ladies. You're just sharing what you're thinking about that situation. You're sharing your beliefs about that particular subject. And then again, if you need to tweak that along the way, you certainly can. Okay, you guys, now we're getting to one of my favorites, the phrase, you know? Oh my gosh, I was so bad about this. My dad personally went on a mission when I was in high school to break me of this habit. It's true. I just was saying it all the time. Now, I'm an 80s girl, a 1980s girl, and we did say this a lot. I think it was like a Valley Girl kind of thing. And you guys, it was pretty bad, I have to admit. Now, of course, as a professional woman today, I notice it in other women. I do try to inspire them and show them a technique on how to break it. Since it's a conversation filler, we know that. And, you usually are saying this when you're pausing in between sentences and things like that. One of the ways we broke the habit is every time I said, my dad would come back with a response. I think he would say things like, no, I don't know, that kind of thing. I just said, again. But in any case, you guys, do something. Ask a friend, a colleague, a coworker, your loved ones to help you break the habit because it's definitely going to undermine you. And here's something I think is even more effective. If you're not sure what to say, just don't fill the space. Pause instead. Pausing in between is a powerful technique, especially in public speaking. So, whether you're on Zoom or in person, over the telephone, those kinds of things, think about pausing in between. Don't just rush in there to fill the space. When you do that, that actually portrays uncertainty and takes away from the confident, amazing, powerful professional woman I know that you are. I know this, I say it all the time because if you're listening to podcast episodes like this, obviously, you want to bring your A game to the office, or you already are bringing your A game to the office and you love listening to things like this because it reminds you of how right you are. It reminds you that you're doing amazing things to promote yourself and your personal and professional growth. So, congratulations, ladies. I love our audience. I love our shop talkers. That's my little nickname for you since our company is Dr. Dawn Shop Talk, and we love to talk to you about shop. We love to talk to you, in other words, about all the different things like this that could affect our success. Now, let me get back to a word I've used a couple of times as examples already. It's the word actually. Nothing against that word, but again, it could be taking your power away because it sounds like you're having to qualify your answer or justify it. So again, we don't want to qualify our answer. We don't want to take away from what we're saying. And here's something else too. The word actually sometimes could be interpreted as being maybe a little defensive. Have you ever been in that situation where somebody would say, well, actually, and when they say it like that, it sounds a little rude, sounds defensive, or sometimes it can make you sound surprised with the results. So again, all of those things are going to take away from your message. So I'd like for you to do this instead. Say, well, here's another way to look at it. Don't you love that? I think that's a powerful yet kind and respectful way to bring up a difference, to bring up a different point of view, in other words. So, really think about that. Okay, I want to give you one more example. And then, as always, I'm going to give you a couple of tips so we can wrap this up and you are good to go, ready to use not only your powerful voice, like we talked about last week, but now these powerful phrases. Okay, and I'm talking about the times where people are trying to make sure they're letting others know that you may not be an expert in this one little thing. So I've actually been at meetings where I've heard people say, well, I'm not actually an expert in this, but talk about self dismissal. You've literally just disqualified yourself from people even wanting to hear your point of view. So forget that altogether, ladies. Just lead with your credentials if you feel like you need to, but many times you don't have to. You can just make the statement and you could lead with something like, well, in my experience, this is what I've seen. When you say that, you're not saying that you're an expert in the area per se. You're not saying, well, my expertise suggests otherwise. You're not saying that. You're literally just letting someone know that in your experience, you've seen something else. So, again, that's totally okay. Now, I just said the word totally, and I think that may be a qualifier as well. But that's okay. That is okay. Self love, people, patience. right? We're shooting for progress, not perfectionism. So, as you guys know, we have a lot of different videos about perfectionism, what's holding you back, what's getting in your way. Again, all videos will be linked in the description box on YouTube and definitely in the show notes on our podcast. So, wherever you listen, your favorite podcast platform, any of the links I talk about, you guys, will be in those show notes. I'll also always include our website and ways to reach out to us because if topics like these are things you feel like you need personal help with, we've got coaching. We have workshops and seminars we can do for your organization. So please let us know if we can help in any way. All right, you guys. So let's go ahead and wrap up with talking about 3 strategies you can put in place right now to make sure you're embracing your power. Okay? So, tip number 1, I'm calling this capture and reflect. So, what I mean is this. I want you to capture how you're speaking. Go ahead and practice a presentation coming up or a meeting where you know you're sometimes reluctant to share your thoughts. Come up with some talking points. Then I want you to capture that by recording yourself. Awareness is the first step. So if you can listen to yourself, maybe you even have other recordings where you've made presentations at meetings, go back and listen. Listen for those qualifiers. Listen to see if you're jumping in to fill those gaps. And if you are you filling it in a way that's taking away from that credibility? So listen for some of those phrases I mentioned and for others. See how you do. And at least with that awareness, you can start putting some action steps in place right now to be able to replace those phrases with some of the suggestions we talked about today. You might even come up with some amazing ones yourself. And whatever you come up with, you guys, please share that. You know, on this podcast, we're building an amazing community of professionals. So I would love for you to comment below on YouTube or on the podcast. Let us know what you've come up with. Or let us know if there's other phrases that you're saying a lot that you realize are taking away from your power. The more we share, the more powerful we are as a group, you guys. So would love to hear your feedback on that. Now, if you need some help on some awareness and you're afraid that what you're doing and saying is taking away from your executive presence, in other words, from your brand, your reputation, you guys need to join us for our next workshop. We have a Building Your Brand workshop. If you're in the Little Rock area, come join us. It's going to be on October 2nd at the Aloft Hotel. It's always on your lunch hour, 11:30 to 1. So it's a networking event. You get to meet other professionals working on the same thing. Now, if you're not in the Little Rock area, you can always join us on our live stream. So there's a link. You can head over to our website. You can buy tickets now. Just go over to Dr. Dawn's Shop Talk. That's just DRDAWN Shop Talk, all one word. I'll put it on the screen on YouTube so you can see that as well. But you literally just click on the workshop tab, go to that workshop October 2nd, and you can buy your tickets. Now, if you've attended one of our workshops before, there is a special discount code for you. So watch out for that email. We'll send it your way. But in any case, you guys, I hope you can join us. Now, if you can't join us on October 2nd, either in person or through the live stream, I have a whole playlist of videos. I'll go ahead and insert that here on YouTube. And of course, the links will be on the show notes and in the description box. But it's a Building Your Brand Secrets. I have a bunch of videos there that can help. So either way, ladies, you are covered. Tip number 2, I'm calling this one practice rewriting. In other words, here's your homework. I want you to rewrite your emails or your texts in a powerful way. So look out for those phrases, replace it. Even if it's just the word just or maybe, go ahead and watch for those. Replace it with some powerful alternatives. Remember, the more you practice, the easier it's going to become. You can even use AI services like ChatGPT, copy and paste your email that you know just doesn't sound great, and ask it to write it with more confident language. But be careful with ChatGPT. And I'm not just picking on ChatGPT. I love chat. But just like any other AI program, you need to make sure it sounds like you. Now, if sounding like you is no confidence whatsoever, okay, yes, we do want to move into more confident language. But what I mean is that you really need to teach it how to talk like you. So when it produces that sample email. It may be too far from the way you would normally sound. So what you want to do is upload some sample things that you've written before, so it kind of understands the way you would phrase things. Now, again, we don't want to phrase things perhaps in the way you have been if it's taking your power away, but you can kind of blend the two. So just be aware of that. All right, guys, last but not least, tip number 3, I'm calling this pause with purpose. So like I mentioned earlier, if you're saying things like, or maybe you're pausing with a lot of, well, things like that. Okay. If that happens to you, then again, you want to pause instead. Again, it's a powerful way to make your point. Pausing with intention, with that purpose, really is a powerful technique in public speaking. So use it well. Use it to your advantage instead of just rushing in there to fill that space. All right, you guys. Well, as we wrap up, I want to again thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you got a lot from it. I hope you enjoyed listening to this subject and thinking about, oh my gosh, am I doing those things? It's a subtle but powerful way to make a change so that what you're saying and not just how you're saying it really comes through in the most confident way possible. The last thing I want is for you to work so hard at your careers, and then these subtle things are undermining you without you even realizing it. So again, guys, all throughout the episode, you're going to notice I'm going to pop up other videos. I'll have additional video links in those notes I talked about in the show notes and in the description box. I'll have other episodes of our podcast as well as other playlists that I know that you're going to enjoy and can really help you. So as we wrap up, as always, I'm going to close with our motto that we say here at Shop Talk and here on the podcast to remind us that we have the choices to make our day a wonderful one, right? We just got to get out of our own way, and we have to realize how much is in our control, how much is not in our control, and really work on the effort. Leave the outcome to the universe. And sometimes things work out the way they should, or they work out in some unexpected way and it ends up being 100 times better anyway. So let go of that perfectionism, let go of that control, ladies. You just work on what is in your hands and leave the rest. I promise you, you've got this. So here's our motto, ladies. It goes like this. If you're not having a fantastic day, you have the power to make it one. Until next time, this is Dr. Dawn reminding you that words are not just sound, they're your signature. I know our episode is over, but this is just the beginning. If you're ready to take action but don't know where to start, just head over to drdawnshoptalk.com for lots of free resources, ways to work together, and for even more. Subscribe to the Dr. Dawn Shop Talk YouTube channel. Remember, ladies, you don't have to take this journey alone. I've got you covered. Till next time.